all those lawsuits that have been filed that are deemed to be frivolous. Can anybody tell me what the tab is on to the state of Mississippi? Or have we had an accounting of that for
Well,
those
I
lawsuits
don't,
that we enjoined?
hey, John from Washington, I don't have that in front of me, but we'll get that information to you as soon as we can.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Gentleman from Calhoun, Mr. Beckett, do you have a question?
Yes, I had a question. A little bit of confusion on my part from our discussions. How many of the attorneys' positions are covered by this? Because I know they have different classifications of attorneys. Approximately, are we talking about just a handful of people? Are we talking about the majority of their attorneys over there? Or what are we talking about?
Well, it's a majority. Now, like I said, it says for assistant and special attorneys. So there's probably quite a few of them. Now I can get the number for you.
Would it all? Yeah, I just knew that either we had a lot that were covered, or we had a few that were covered, and some of them weren't. And I was just kind of wondering how many.
Yeah, well, we'll be glad to get that information to you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions on this piece of legislation? If not, I recommend title sufficient do pass committee sub. All in favor say aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Okay. Okay. We're going to have to, on the double referreds, we will have to skip down to third item, House Bill 761. I recognize the gentleman from Montgomery, Vice Chairman, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill comes to appropriations from military affairs. There are several lines addressing property management companies, educational experience for nurses, incentive for nurses, remodeling, renovations, various things in our veterans' homes. And there's a committee sub, Mr. Chairman, that addresses all of these changes and has kind of condensed it really in all of these provisions down to just four smaller provisions. The committee sub allows for the following duties to be added to the board of state Veterans Affairs boards. And this bill also revises the powers and duties relating to the operation of state veteran homes. The original bill would have taken all the homes funds out of the treasury and into an account that would be controlled by this or the State Veterans Affairs Board, and not through appropriations of the legislature. It's taken out of the buildings, let contracts for construction, repair, out of PERS, out of state health insurance, and out of the inventory count of the state auditor, if the homes were contracted to a property management company. And this committee sub just allows those duties to be added to the board. The duties are, it gives them authority to expend funds upon appropriation of the legislature, enter into a loan or scholarship agreements with employees or students to provide educational assistance, devise an employee incentive plan, and sell or dispose of property from state veterans' home that they've had an abundance of and not being used. And that's an explanation of the committee sub that just condenses the entire House bill into those few things there. And I'll yield for any questions.
You heard the gentleman. Are there any questions to the gentleman?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Gentleman from Lauderdale, Mr. Young.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In the condensed version of the amended portion that we're going through, are we taking care of the nurses in there with the shortfall that we had?
That'll be an appropriation bill.
Repeat your question, please, gentlemen.
Okay.
Would you repeat your question?
With regard to the amendment, the condensed version, are we taking, there was an issue with the VA and with Stacey Pickering's office regarding being able to provide contract revisions for nurses. We weren't able to meet the salary requirements, the hourly rate. Is this included in that revision?
69 took care of nurses.
This bill does not do that. House Bill 69, I'm being told by council, that addresses that issue, gentlemen.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Are there any other questions for the gentleman? If not, what's your recommendation, sir?
Title sufficient do pass, committee sub.
You've heard the gentleman's recommendation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Next item is, let's go back up to the top of the page, just to bring up House Bill 424, recognize the gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Busby, to explain the bill. Is he there? Hold on just a second. We're having a little technical difficulty here. Okay. Okay. We're going to come back to that bill. I'm going to go back to the first bill on our agenda today. No. Okay, she's not here. Okay, well, let's go to the last bill on our thing, and this will be House Bill 1167. Recognize the gentleman from Harrison, Mr. Bennett, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna go ahead and read the title here briefly what it is. It's the Secretary of State shall annually procure a sufficient number of official state flags for display on the grounds of the state capitol, which after being displayed shall be made available to each member of the House of Representatives and the Senate for distribution to the public. And what we're doing here, this is traditionally, we've gotten the flags over the years for many, many years. And there was some question whether it was clear in the statute or not, whether he could do this. So I think there was mixed reviews on whether he could or couldn't do it. So we're just clarifying it so that he can distribute these flags to the different members of the House and Senate. And that's all we're doing is clarifying the language. If there's no questions, I ask for a title sufficient do pass.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. We're not changing.
Okay, gentleman from Lauderdale, Mr. Young.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're not changing our procedure on what we do and how we do. The only thing we're doing is codifying the rule.
That's it. Right.
Okay.
You'll still get your 6 flags or whatever, just like we've always.
Right. I just want to make certain that they still going to be available as they have been. So thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you.
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman from the Senate, Mr. Eubanks, you're recognized.
Thank you. Representative Bennett, is this something that they will still absorb in their own budget like they've done in the past, or is this?
It's the budget. It's going to be the same as it's always been, like we did with prior flags. Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? You've heard the gentleman's recommendation, title sufficient to pass committee sub. No, wait, that's not correct.
No, it's not a committee sub.
Title sufficient do pass. I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong one. Title sufficient do pass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Let's go. Hold on just a second. Let me see who's here and who's on. Hold on. Is the lady from the Met online? Don't hear her. The gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Busby, is he online yet?
She's not.
Okay. Hold on just one sec. Is the gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Busby, online yet? Gentleman from Jackson, he's not, no. Gentleman from Jackson, you're not online, are you, at this time? Chairman Busby? I have, what we have out of the Transportations Committee are, there'd be House Bill 424, it's a memorial highway designating a segment of Highway 44 in Marion County as a T.L. Wallace Memorial Highway, and that's self-explanatory.
Message.
What? Oh, okay, just one second, lady from the mid. But this is a self-explanatory, and if there's no questions, I recommend title sufficient to pass committee sub. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Now let's go back. Lady from the mid, are you on the line? Are you on the?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Okay, good to see you. I know you've been in another committee. At this time, I'd like to recognize a lady from MIT to handle item number 1, House Bill 109, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, House Bill 109 is our transfer bill. Section 1 pulls forward Section 27-103-125 in order to delete old language for the 2% set aside for years that were changed. Section 2 pulls forward Section 27-103-139 in order to delete old language for the 2% set aside for years that were changed. Section 3 pulls forward Section 27-103-203. This section deals with the working cash stabilization fund and the amounts that the governor can access during the year that budgets may be reduced. This deletes old language that allows the governor to access additional funds in 2017. Section 4 pulls forward Section 27-103-211. This section deals with the funds to be deposited into the working cash stabilization fund. This deletes old language for years when the legislature used 100% of revenue instead of the 98%. Section 5 pulls forward Section 27-103-213. This section deletes old language in order to remove old language for the general fund split that occurs every year. There were years that funds were changed for the unencumbered cash balance. Section 6 is going to pull forward Section 27-103-303, the capital expense fund. It deletes old language regarding diversion of capital expense funds for the Oil and Gas Board emergency plugging funds. As you can recall, the agency was returned to special funds, and now they have access to funds for plugging wells and no longer need to use capital expense funds. Section 7, transfer of funds from the Mississippi Development Authority Job Training Grant that will be transferred into the capital expense fund. Section 8 repeals Section 57-1-451, which is the MDA Job Training Grant Fund. The balance of the funds is over $18 million in this fund, and the funds were originally intended to help with training in Northeast Mississippi for the Toyota plant. They haven't been needed. And so these sections are pulled so that we can just simply repeal the section. Section 9, which is the last section of the bill, is generic transfer language that's going to be used in conference. Currently, it is $1 from the general fund and treasurer's office to the capital expense fund. As you all know, members of the committee, we always have this particular section in our transfer bills. And as this bills makes its way through the process, these numbers could change. And that's an explanation of House Bill 109, Mr. Chairman, and I'll yield for any questions.
You've heard the lady's explanation for the bill. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Young lady, what's your recommendation?
Title sufficient do pass, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard the recommendation. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, ma'am. Is the gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Busby, on at this time?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I didn't try to overrode you, but I've already worked on House Bill 424, so at this time I recognize you to do House Bill 576.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 576 just revises the definition of a deficient bridge to match the federal definition. And it also revises the allocation formula for Lsbp funding. Currently, the calculation is based on the number of system bridges proportionate to the number of bridges across the state of system bridges, and number of road miles proportionate to road miles in the state. And it takes out the road miles and changes that to the deck area of the bridges so we can get the money to the bridges. And that is an explanation of the bill.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation. Are there any questions for the gentleman?
Motion is title sufficient, do pass if there are no questions.
You've heard the recommendation. All in favor, say aye. The ayes, the opposed, no. The ayes have it. Yeah. Next on the agenda will be House Bill 872. I recognize the gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Busby, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 872 would designate a portion of Highway 61 in Jefferson County for Troy Morris, who's a highway patrolman, as you may recall, was killed last year on Highway 61, performing a second job. He was shot to death, and this would dedicate a portion of that highway in his honor, and that's an explanation of the bill.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation. Are there any questions? Any questions? If not, recommendation, sir?
The motion is title sufficient, do pass, committee sub.
You've heard his recommendation. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next will be House Bill 940. Recognize the gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Busby, to work the bill.
Thank you. This would dedicate a portion of Highway 82 in Webster County in honor of Corporal William Justin Cooper from Grady Road to the Montgomery County line. That is an explanation of the bill.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation. Recommendation?
Title sufficient, do pass, committee sub.
Okay. All in favor of the recommendation, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item would be House Bill. That was 887 we just were. So it'll be 940.
Yes, sir.
Recognize the gentleman from Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this spends no state money. All we're doing is giving the community of Pisgah permission to put a sign honoring Tori Bowie, who was an Olympian from their community, honoring her on the right of way of the highway there. That's an explanation of the bill.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation. Any questions on this? If not, your recommendation, sir?
Title sufficient, do pass.
Heard it. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda will be House Bill 995. Recognize
Yes, sir.
Mr. Busby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would designate a portion of I-269 from the Tennessee state line to Highway 302 in honor of Representative Tommy Woods, and that is an explanation of the bill.
You've heard the explanation. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? If not, your recommendation is?
The motion is title sufficient, do pass, committee sub.
Okay, you heard it. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for your patience and thank the committee for its patience. I apologize for the delays.
Well, let me take a point of personal privilege here. We're winging it, and this is the first time we've done this, and I want to appreciate every member who took the time to go to their office and get this thing and brought up, and has participated in our Zoom meeting. And this is the first of probably several to come, and I want to thank you all personally for allowing me to be the chairman of this committee and also to have y'all support. And we'll meet Tuesday at 10. Rise and report.